Empower to Integrate, a collaborative initiative by Aditus Foundation and the African Media Association Malta. This program is dedicated to advancing integration and social inclusion for third country nationals in Malta. It is funded by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and carried out in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds.
Welcome to the Empower to Integrate project. This is a collaborative initiative between Aditus Foundation and African Media Association Malta. The Empower to Integrate project is funded by the Asylum, Migration Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds. The Empower to Integrate project is a platform for third country nationals to boost their visibility, have their voices heard, and share their perspectives with the Maltese community. It aims to address challenges that they are currently facing, like housing, health, education, employment, and language barriers their children may face in schools. It also aims to develop community empowerment between Maltese people and migrants, where migrants will feel seen, safe, and have a sense of belonging. And at the same time, it's for migrants to learn more about Malta, the culture, the people, the lifestyle, and their values. Hi, I'm Nazlee Mayhew, and I'll be the radio host for today. And we will be talking about employment opportunities for asylum seekers and third country nationals. And joining me in the studio, I have Midhun Manohar, who is originally from India and has been living in Malta for the past 5 years. He currently works as a social worker with the Migrants Commission. And previously, he worked with the Agency for the Welfare of Asylum Seekers. He's also a volunteer with the Hazenzia Support. And beyond his professional role, he actively engages in migrant integration efforts and mobilizing communities and leading initiatives that foster dignity, inclusion, and social justice. I also have with me in the studio Beth Cachia. She is the Research and Advocacy Coordinator with the Jesuit Refugee Service Malta and also works on employment issues. This includes in-depth support and mentoring on employment on an individualized and case-by-case basis, especially for young people who have finished higher education or other courses and are looking for better job opportunities. In addition, JRS also offers an information service for employees who wish to understand more about the process of hiring asylum seekers and refugees, as well as supporting them with the other individuals concerning their employees as well. So welcome to you both today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Midhun, can you talk about a time where you felt like giving up in relation to employment in Malta, but you continued?
Yes, there were many incidents that I felt like, okay, this is the best that I can do. I need to leave. But there are a lot of aspects that prevented me from doing that. I came here in Malta in 2019, mainly because of financial reasons and better standard of living. And this country has given me a lot in the past 5-6 years, including my professional and personal growth. And the personal growth is more than that I have ever expected. And it's not easy. I always feel like I need to go back to home. But there are my finances, the respect that I receive for my profession, my personal life here, the networks that I have built in Malta, my friends, my contacts, it all prevents me from stopping the employment and going back. And also the legal issues. If I need to quit my job, then I have to find another employment in 10 days time, which is kind of difficult. And that is something else that prevents me from quitting from my employment.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Beth, what would you say is the biggest employment challenge that asylum seekers or third country nationals are facing in relation to documentation and legal barriers?
I think the biggest thing that comes to mind straight away is when we talk about documentation, there are so many different types of documentation, and there's a very big lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge about what different documents mean. We talk about hiring migrants, but that can mean, a TCN, an asylum seeker, a refugee, someone with a residence permit, someone without a residence permit. But in fact, even rejected asylum seekers, if they have the Yellow Book tolerated stay document, they still have the right to work. Okay. But we often see employers shying away from employing people with this document, either because they don't understand that it gives them the right to work, or because they know that in the hierarchy of statuses, it's at the bottom. So I think the kind of lack of knowledge and lack of information is the biggest thing when it comes to documentation, but also just the bureaucracy of waiting for your various documents. I mean, Midhun mentioned the 10-day issue for 10 TCNs. This is obviously a huge barrier. Waiting for your asylum status to be decided can take years. That's another huge barrier. So all the time your rights are changing, your documents are changing, but it's either you don't have enough time to sort things out, or you have a long time waiting in limbo for your documentation to be sorted out.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And just coming back to you, Midhun, what did you consider, even though you faced all these barriers and challenges that you're talking about, to be your biggest achievement in Malta so far?
The biggest achievement so far is that the personal connections that I have built in Malta. It's a diverse population, and I got exposed to a lot of cultures and a lot of people from different backgrounds. The network, the contacts that I have, that is the personal achievements I consider that I have. Mm-hmm. And also recently I have also won an award which was given by Junior Chamber International for my personal achievements and accomplishments. That also I consider as an achievement.
Thank you. And how does that make you feel, knowing that you're contributing to just living here in Malta?
Personally, I feel so proud that I'm from Kerala, India, and coming from that background, I have worked with government entities, I have worked with non-government entities, I have been exposed to a lot of international programs, delegates, and international figures. So this makes me really, really proud of who I am and what the country has given to me and the exposure.
Thank you for sharing that. Beth, what did you say would be practical advice that you could give to both asylum seekers or third country nationals in terms of job seekers as well as employers, so that we can foster, a more inclusive working environment?
I think maybe it sounds a little bit fluffy, but to maybe not accept the lowest, most exploitative jobs. I mean, Midhun mentioned diversity, and diversity is very real. It's something that we see every day in our work. If you talk about a group of asylum seekers, they can be from several different countries, come with a variety of different languages, different skills. And, even if they might not have the skills on paper, the willingness and the drive to learn and gain more skills is nearly always there. They just need people to believe in them and take a chance on them, rather than using them to kind of fill gaps for, disposable labor or short-term labor or these things. So I think that's kind of believing that you can grow, you can progress, maybe on a more practical level. Identifying what your skills are, honing your CV, practicing your interview skills with your friends, with social workers, NGOs, people who are willing to help you, to show that you don't want to be the person who just shows up to a construction site and says, okay, yeah, I'm good to work for 3 hours today, to find something really stable. And then to make sure that once you're in work, and I think that this is really crucial, that everything is in place. The papers are there. Don't just trust your employer when he says, yes, I've done all the right things. Even when it comes to paying social security, taxes, all of these things, the amount of times I've sat with clients who think that this paperwork has been done, that they're paying their taxes, and it's actually not happening. And this, we've seen it catch up with people many years later, because they're then told that they didn't pay contributions. I think there is a duty on both sides to make sure that everything is in place. I mean, obviously, in an ideal world, an employer would do all these things and it would just be done, but so often it isn't. And for employers, I think all the same thing, but on the flip side, invest in your employees, whoever they are. It doesn't matter whether they're Maltese, British, EU, TCN, asylum seeker, if you have somebody who's doing a good job, invest in them, you know, training opportunities, you know, even small kind of perks of the job, just show people that you appreciate them. Because, you know, we talk about disposable labor, migrant labor and all these things, but I have worked with some incredible employers who often are just a bit stuck, you know, they face language barriers, so they end up kind of giving up a little bit, and you know, they say, oh, you know, I'm not managing with this person, but invest, you know, encourage them to go to English classes, whether they're free ones or, you know, or you want to put a bit of money into this person. I think that there are things that they can do, and it actually makes their life easier rather than going through a new hiring process over and over. And seek support. If you're confused about documentation or anything, you can contact us at JRS, you can contact Jobs Plus, you know, the information is there. So I would just advise really on a practical level to stay informed, but also just to invest in yourself and in your employees.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. This sounds like good advice for people to take on. Thank you. Back to you, Midhun. What did you say is the most important skill to have when it comes to working, you know, in jobs in Malta?
I would start with communication skills and networking skills. And people need to know what are the services that they can reach out in Malta. I have seen many cases among my friends and among my community that people just come here. They focus only on their employment and work as much as they could, save money as much as they can, and then send back to their family back in their own country. And they don't engage with any cultural activities, even Maltese cultural, own community cultural activities. They don't engage. And without encouraging, they get isolated. And it affects their social life, even psychologically. And this is something that is a big challenge among people. This also affects their work-life balance, because many people will be focusing on, especially shift workers. That I know people who starts working early in the morning around 6 o'clock, and then they stop for a break, like 3 or 4 hours break where they go and sleep, and then they go back to work till 10 o'clock, 11 or 12 in the midnight, and then they wake up in the morning, and it goes the same. And when they have a day off, they do the other things at their home, cooking and other things, but they don't engage with. So either employment or it's a personal choice. So this is something that people need to improve. Networking, communicating, and socializing is something that is important.
Thank you. Those are very key skills to have as well. From your experience, what did you think people may not be communicating or networking with others, where they become isolated? They're just focusing on coming here, making money, sending money back to their families, and even taking 2 jobs just to help them make ends meet.
One of the things I personally believe is the fear. I have seen, even me personally, if I have an issue at employment, if I reach out to tell somebody, will I get fired, or will my document will be in crisis? So people are scared to speak up. People are scared to reach out for help. People reach out when they cannot do anything by themselves in the last. In reality, they can reach out in the beginning. People are scared because of especially like I said, as a TCN, I can say the 10-day period is something which really scare people to come out of their issues and talk about it.
Yes, thank you. And Beth, what systemic changes or policy adjustments do you believe would improve the labour market access for TCNs and asylum seekers?
I mean, I can pick up on a point that Midhun just said. I mean, the 10 days for TCNs is ridiculous, and it violates EU law. So I know that changes are proposed, they're in the pipeline. So we hope to see some improvement in that sense. But these are things which help society, you know. That's if people are not left in these situations of desperation, of being undocumented, you know, we see a rise in poverty, a rise in homelessness for the local population, but also the migrant population. And by migrant population, it's everyone, you know, because people end up in these really tough situations. And I think just a bit of kind of reflection on a political level, a systemic level, that these policies, these procedures in place that actually really are detrimental to people's lives really do affect everybody. And if we can't talk about change on that societal level, fostering empathy amongst people, I mean, it has to happen somewhere along the line. And we're stuck in this conversation that the labor market needs migrants. It's like an acknowledged thing, but at the same time, people feel fear, they feel tension, they feel that too many people are coming. So what we see in government response is crackdowns, getting tougher on people. But actually, if we can change the conversation about, embracing diversity, I know it all sounds very nice and fluffy on paper, but in reality, it's something that we have to acknowledge and accept, if we want to sustain the Maltese economy the way it is, if people want to continue living their nice lives and going to restaurants and all of these things, we have to accept that we need more people here, working here, filling these jobs. But at the same time, these people need a quality of life that means that they are happy here. They want to stay. They should be able to bring their families, build their lives, be able to communicate, to network, to have their own lives outside of just filling labor gaps. And I think that this is really about societal conversation, even more than kind of systemic change. I mean, get the policies and laws in place first, but also reflect a bit on what we want from our society. I think that's, for me, it's really key.
Thank you for sharing that, Beth. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit more what the 10-day rule looks like?
I mean, in terms of how it affects people's lives, I mean, you can say very clearly, I mean, I'm not a TCN myself. I have the British status, which is a privilege. I'm very aware of that. But really, I mean, even if anybody loses their job, the process of finding another one, in reality, whoever you are, is considerably difficult. I mean, first of all, people have their skills, their fields, but then, you see people lessening themselves and lessening what they want from their lives in the desperation to find a job, which I think is something very, very sad. And we're not touching in again on people's, professional experience, their skills, what they can offer society. It's more what they can offer us, what gaps can we fill quickly. And it's just this mad rush to find something. Then you have to do all your bureaucracy with Jobs Plus, with Identità, all in this 10-day window, which is crazy. And if you don't make it, the consequences are horrendous. We see people being taken to detention, deported, given entry bans. This is very distressing, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think that's our point. Whenever we get the chance to talk about this, it's very unfair. And I think if anybody was expected to kind of flip their employment situation in 10 days, not just finding a job, going through interview processes, starting the full-on, induction processes, getting all your documents in order in that short space of time. I mean, if you really think about it, it's crazy. It doesn't make sense at all.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Midhun, would you like to just contribute something towards that? Whether you're a street sweeper, whether you're a social worker in your case, that finding another job within 10 days, it just really makes it difficult, and the impact that Beth is talking about.
The 10 days rule is actually giving the employer a leverage to abuse the employees. I have heard from so many people that when they want to quit the job, either they are not allowed to do so with a definite contract, or by saying the 10 days period. So the employers use that as a leverage. If a highly qualified person, or if a person is working in an administration level, if he is fired from the job, he has 10 days. So the jobs that he will be looking for, ideally he should be looking for a similar jobs. But to find an vacancy, to apply and be called for the interview, to wait for the results, it's impossible to do all this thing in 10 days. So usually, in reality, people go for the agents. There are recruitment agents, and there are very low paid jobs. and this is the situation where people get abused by those agents. So this is all we need to think. Is this something that we need to grow the community, or we want to abuse the people? So this is a question.
Because the rules been put in place, and so like Beth said earlier on, it doesn't make sense to us, but it's making sense to somebody. So it's getting to understand where did that come from. And like you said, whether you, even if you're a skilled person, finding a job, even if you're Maltese or you're British, or it doesn't matter where you're from, you know, Africa, 10 days is not enough time. Beth, what did you suggest if you were speaking to somebody in government right now? Instead of 10 days, what would be an ideal period of time for somebody to find work?
I think that's, well, you need to look at the EU legislation, first of all. You can look at what other countries are doing. People are given 6 months in other countries to find other jobs, which if you compare that to 10 days, it's madness. But I think, as far as I understand, the new proposal is proposing 30 days. I think we can agree that that is an improvement. But this also has to come alongside a lot of other improvements. I mean, yes, the time limit is the thing that comes up when we talk about labour market, migration policy and all of these things. But there are other issues. I mean, Midhun mentioned agencies. I know there has been some crackdown on these agencies, but it hasn't been fully effective. And I mean, some of these kind of issues and corrupt agencies run very, very deep, and it's a huge concern. And you know, we tip into issues of human trafficking and other things, you know. So I think that the commitment to change the policy is a good thing, but again, we need to be asking why we're making such changes. Is it about you know, bettering the lives of migrant workers? The optimist in me says yes, partially, but at the same time, you know, there are other things. You know, you mentioned, you know, who does this benefit, this 10 days? And I mean, there is this kind of, you know, the leverage for employers for sure, and they can continue exploitative practices. But even in government messaging and how they speak to people, you know, the deterrence for people to come. I mean, this is for TCNs, but we talk about deterrence for people, you know, even asylum seekers, refugees. There are different policies in place to stop people coming in many different ways. So I think, again, a bit of reflection on why we want to implement all these changes is needed. But yes, on the time limit thing, an increase would be good. I don't know what I would suggest, but I would say, you know, let's start with legislation and, you know, actually be in line with what we're supposed to be doing as an EU member state, you know, and actually, you know, as I said before, increasing this time limit does benefit everybody, and we shouldn't be benefiting exploitative employers either way, you know, and the government should also be on that same page. According to their, you know, policy recommendations, their proposals, they do want to crack down on exploitative employers, which is of course something that we would all support. So we'll see what comes out of the latest proposals, but yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just before we close off as well, would you like to add anything to what Beth has been talking about, Midhun?
Yes, and to add on to that, what I would like to say is that communities need to bring together. We in Malta, there are a lot of communities, a lot of people from different countries, there are a lot of communities, but they are separated. So what I believe is that communities need to come together, and they need to be empowered, and then they need to empower the other people. For example, if I have some issues in Malta, then before reaching out to any organization, I reach out to my own community members, representatives for seeking guidance. So in every communities, I believe that's how basic thing works. So if we have to bring together all the communities, and the communities need to work together to make the people informed about their rights, the services available, what they can do together. I mean, I believe a lot of changes can be make when communities come together.
Thank you very much to Midhun, Manohar, and to Beth, Cachia for coming along today and sharing their views, perspectives, and experiences of how we can build a more inclusive society in Malta, but using it through the lens today of employment and, being in a society where everybody will feel that they can speak up at work and not fear that they'll be abused or they'll lose their job. And also for the communities within the migrants themselves is to, first of all, reach out to their own people, or they can also look for help, there's a lot of it out there, so it's just finding that information. It's a very delicate subject as well, and it impacts people on a personal level, as we've seen. So we just want to thank you again for coming along to share that with us. And again, I'd just like to thank the Asylum Migration Integration Fund and the European Union for funding this project so that we can boost the visibility for third country nationals where they feel safe, seen, and have a sense of belonging, where they can speak up and also build their lives, and at the same time live in Malta and experience this rich culture that they have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Empower to Integrate, a collaborative initiative by Aditus Foundation and the African Media Association Malta. This program is dedicated to advancing integration and social inclusion for third country nationals in Malta. It is funded by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and carried out in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds.